when people talk about economic models of alternatives to capitalism, a lot of times there's not a clear vision. There's not something that you can hone in on that can be readily understood, that exists right now, that functions in the world today, that you can point to and say, let's do more of that. But I think the library is a good example of what we could be moving towards. This is not my own original idea. I got links in the description for Seriously Wrong podcast, who refer to their vision of a post-capitalist economy as library socialism explicitly, because they want to make this connection between a library and socialist politics. So, a library uses something that in Murray Bookchin's theory of the economy is called usufruct property. Usufruct property is different from private property or personal property or anything like that, in that it is owned collectively. But it is not to be used up. It is to be used, borrowed freely, okay? But it is to be returned. The great example is the library book. Usufruct property doesn't count if you're giving people, say, a disposable resource. So a government program that gives people free food is not usufruct property. If you give everybody free bread, they eat it and the bread goes away. So that might be a good idea. It might be good to give people free stuff in certain scenarios, but that is not the same as usufruct property. It is also not the same to have a state-owned enterprise or a nationalized enterprise like the mail service. That is not usufruct property. What is usufruct property is library books from a local public library. So if we use that basic idea, we can expand that idea to talk about other products that could be treated as usufruct property, like a library of things, for example. A lot of libraries today have these small libraries of things where you can get maybe a screwdriver or an old-fashioned record player to play vinyls, or even just, normal things like DVDs. A lot of the services that libraries offer aren't just books, but a lot of them, they still follow the same sorts of rules. You can borrow a screwdriver if you need one to get a specific construction job done, but you obviously can't damage or destroy that screwdriver. If you do that, you have to pay fines, you have to pay fees. You're not allowed to just wreck the property of the library. This way of engaging with property fundamentally reverses the incentive structure behind things like planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is when products are made to become outdated or destroyed or wasted with the deliberate intention of encouraging people to buy more of them so that the company producing it can make more money. But in a library economy, nobody would have any incentive to produce things like that because everything is going to people completely for free and they're not allowed to damage them. So the goal is then to make as high a quality of product as is humanly possible to be borrowed and utilized by people without damaging it. The goal is now to minimize waste instead of, in our current system, the goal seems to be to maximize waste. Additionally, a lot of the things that we use in our day-to-day life that people own individually, there is just no good reason for them to have to own them. Why do you have to own a lawnmower necessarily? Maybe you borrow a lawnmower on an annual basis, you use it, okay, and then when you move into a home that no longer has a lawn, you return it, and you can get it completely for free. A lawnmower might not be the best example because a lot of people do mow their lawns on a regular basis, but there are other tools that you just don't use every day. To own something that you don't use every day and that every single other person in your neighborhood owns as well. Why not have a community shed with a community lawnmower? And anybody who needs to borrow that lawnmower for the day to mow their lawn can use it and then return it. It's not a big deal if there's a bit of a shortage. You can have multiple community lawnmowers. It's just, I think, deeply inefficient and just not cost effective for every single person to feel in our individualistic society like they have to own a duplicate of everything their neighbors own, just in case once every 10 years they need a specific tool out of their garage to do a very specific job. It makes more sense to have something like a library of things that you can borrow from and return to, as long as you don't damage the property in question. In its most extreme form, this idea of usufructian property rights can be used to do things enormous scale, like giving people free housing, for example. The idea of just giving people free housing by paying for it through the government, one of the concerns, obviously, is that they're not going to treat that property with much respect. You give them that free housing, and then maybe they just go and take a sledgehammer through the walls. And if you're trying to give housing to, say, all of the homeless people, you might have a number of rowdy individuals who maybe aren't super fit to take care of their home. So to just give them a new home automatically, if they're destroying the other one, is probably a bad set of incentives. I think that it's wise to have serious protections. If we're going to give people free things, then we should ensure that those people take care of them. But I also believe that we can, in fact, live in a society where you give people free resources without making them pay for them, without making them earn them necessarily, as long as the incentive structure is there, that they need to take good care of that property and return it when they're done with it so it can be used by someone else.